Okay, 2-minute warning till partner power hour. If you're hanging out in the hallway, you should come this way, meaning the event space.
Yeah, yeah. I like the aesthetic of it. I have done a lot of tunes. I have this is the same. Here's a good question. I don't know if this is like the technically maker way of like the artist is maybe like I think it's a bit more it's almost neon salt water. It is pretty good. You know, I like mine. They have a double quick thing. Yeah. So this is system 7. Oh, seriously? Trying to get those with it's like got that. It's crazy, man. Oh yeah, yeah. I have yeah.
This is your final warning. We have 60 seconds until not chaos commences.
Maybe it's chaos. Butterfly. I do,
Okay, let's kick it off. Hey y'all, how's it going? Yay! All right, just so we can get our guests some kind of perspective into who you all are, how many of you all are currently in a 201 class? What about 301? What about 401? Word. What about 401 Python? I don't expect they would be over here. They're going to be graduating today at 1:30, so if you all get an opportunity, please come out and check that out too. Cool? Awesome. All right. So we're really excited about the Partner Power Hour today. We've got 2 guests that are actually CodeFellows graduates that currently work in the industry, and they work at some pretty awesome companies. So my goal today is just to have a conversation with them about what their job search looked like, what it looks like working in those companies, and then ultimately I really want to leave enough time for you all to ask your questions about those programs too. Again, both of them have been through CodeFellows, so they kind of know what that experience looks like. And yeah, I want you all to, kind of ask questions that are based on your experiences and hopefully get some answers to what it may look like to get into these programs. And in particular, how many of you all have heard of LEAP? Anyone? Cool. I'm going to let Chris talk about it a little bit, and I'll back some of that up too. But ultimately, pay close attention to the LEAP kind of portion of this conversation, especially if you're looking more for an internship/apprenticeship role after you leave CodeFellows versus moving directly into a full-time position. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. All right, y'all ready? Cool. All right, so first and foremost, let's give our guest a round of applause for being here. All right, so we have Michael and Chris. I'll let them introduce themselves, and just in case you all don't know me, I'm Brian. I'm the principal instructor here. Yeah, I know most of you, so cool. We'll get started.
Hi, my name is Michael Porter. I came to Seattle 4 years ago, and I've been working in software. Well, I was learning software development during all this time, and I came to CodeFellows to kind of make that big jump into software development and get hired, really.
I'm Chris Perez. I came up here to Seattle from Arizona spring of 2016, went straight into CodeFellows back-to-back 201, 301, 401 JavaScript, and then did some job hunting, got into the LEAP apprenticeship at Microsoft, and yeah.
Nice. All right, so given your backgrounds are fairly non-traditional for coding candidates, can you talk a little bit about what you were doing beforehand and how that may have at least allowed you to give software a chance? And ultimately, how do you feel now that you're a software developer in terms of your day-to-day life versus what you were doing beforehand?
Sure. So usually I give that when you present your story and someone tells you what to do, but I didn't want to give any spoilers out for these questions. But my background's in biology. I've been in biology for 10 years. I was working in academia. I worked as a lab manager. I was in a PhD program. And, as I was there, I was busted. I was working 50, 60 hours a week in the lab trying to get that PhD. And I'm reading articles about kids who are like 14, 15 years old selling products for like, millions of dollars. I'm like, man, what am I doing? Like, I'm busting here in biology. And when like this 14-year-old kid is pulling in all this cash, like that's what it was for me. It was I wanted to make more money, and as a biologist, I wouldn't be able to afford a home. I wouldn't be able to raise kids right, and at least have the money to have all the opportunities I want for my kids and my family and things of that nature. And so I transitioned to Code Fellows to kind of make that break because I found that just studying on my own wasn't sufficient enough. Like that's not me. I function very well in a classroom environment.
So my background academically is in formal linguistics. I got a degree in linguistics specializing in Irish phonetics and phonology at the University of Arizona. And then I ended up being a copy editor and manager for a small creative marketing agency. Did that for about 5 years. It started getting kind of boring, not enough new challenges. I decided to look into some online coding classes, and I actually started by taking a SQL course online that the CEO of the company I was at said might be helpful for us to get data and market things better. And so I went through that little easy course online and was like, whoa, like you can pull a lot of interesting data out of all kinds of random stuff out there. Maybe this coding thing's pretty cool. Started taking more courses on JavaScript and just random other stuff, just dabbling. And then I came on a little vacation trip up here to this general area, and my wife has a friend who had gone through Code Fellows in the early days, and he got a job up in Bellingham, and he was like, yeah man, this software thing is way better than a lot of other things out there. You can make more money, you can work just about anywhere. So I was like, all right, I'm sold, and went back home and started planning, and within a few months it was up here.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I like these answers. I think they touch on a couple of different, kind of key points of their backgrounds. And then one of those things that Michael said that really resonates with me, which is really his why behind this, right? I know that that's multi-tiered. However, one of those things being money. And just to be very clear on that, if that's your why, that's a good why, right? You're in an industry where you definitely have the capabilities of making a handsome income. With that being said, you also need to know that it's a process of getting there, and ultimately you kind of have to pay your dues as a developer, which is really what you're doing here at Code Fellows, right? It's about learning the process of being able to write code and how you yourself can solve problems so that you can just progress in the industry as you move forward. So yeah, my why is actually the exact same thing. I got kids, I got mouths to feed, so that's why I'm here too. So if that's your why, know that that's okay. And it's something that you should use as a catalyst to push you forward, because ultimately, just to be very, very clear, no one makes a 6-digit salary without a lot of experience and without a lot of hard work and investment into that. And again, what you're doing is an accelerated version of that. So as a follow-up to this, I kind of want to ask you guys a little bit about your experiences learning how to code, in particular while you were here in kind of this immersive environment, and then how that continued on when you made it into the industry.
So for me, when I was in graduate school, I started taking online courses, and so I took, the most popular, the biggest ones. One of the big ones is Harvard's intro course, which is, online, and you can take it anytime. And that was a great introduction. But from there, I started doing tutorials online. I started learning Ruby on Rails, and then I started looking for jobs. And I was like, yo, I don't have the experience. No one wants to hire me with this experience. So I did a big push in a JavaScript while I was working at the Department of Health. And then I actually applied for the apprentice program and Code Fellows at the same time. And I was trying all these different things. And then I just did the math, and I figured which one would have me in a better spot in a year, based on salary and income and all these different things. And that's how I made a decision.
So to be clear, I'm describing my learning code journey.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I said before, I was doing like online courses, dabbling in all sorts of things, JavaScript, Java, HTML. I started seeing some courses that were sort of suggesting how you could basically create a better version of a lot of crappy sites out there that somebody makes passive income off of. And if you make a better one, you can have a pretty good passive income going, and that sounded really cool. And I started learning that, and I dug deeper into other things, and JavaScript started seeming more interesting, and I was like, maybe I just want to get better at this and not try and like hack together a site that's slightly better than somebody else's. So dug into online courses, decided that a boot camp was probably going to be super useful, and it was either somewhere up here or in the Bay Area, and I kind of like this area, and so it narrowed it down to the ones around here. Code Fellows seemed like the best option, jumped right in, and yeah, just put a lot of hours in during the course. Did some homework, that was assigned, and homework that was not assigned, just that I felt I needed to work on. And then once the course finished and I was out there looking for jobs, I was just constantly doing algorithms and data structures kind of things, just to sharpen the core skills.
Yep. As a follow-up to that, and this is for you, Chris, can you talk a little bit about Leap and ultimately what that program looked like coming from a background without much coding involved, ultimately outside of Code Fellows?
So the LEAD program sort of throws you into the deep end in terms of having to produce production code, at least on a lot of teams. So you'll end up, if you get into the program, you go through a brief classroom period with sort of like a boot camp situation like this. The intensity is a little higher, but there's less accountability, so you don't have to work that hard in the classroom portion. To be honest, I didn't, because it was not very geared towards what I was going to be doing on the team that I had gotten assigned to. So I focused sort of on what I would need for that. But yeah, moving into that team, it was definitely helpful to have had a professional background and know how to interact with people and know when to ask questions of people that are smarter than you. And yeah, so transitioning into that was difficult. You get a lot of imposter syndrome at times, but overall, you're learning the skills here that you're going to need to use. And I found that a lot of times it was imposter syndrome. I wasn't worthless. I was able to get the tasks done that were assigned to me, and a lot of times a lot quicker than was expected. Just a little tangent on that sort of thing. I think a huge thing that a lot of people don't learn coming through conventional routes or even at other boot camps is Git and the value of that in terms of teamwork. I ended up being sort of like a helpful source and authority on Git processes. So while you're here, have fun with merge conflicts and brew up some Git storms and figure your way out of them, and then you'll end up being a huge resource on your team when you find a job.
Nice. And then a follow-up to that, actually, for Michael, do you still experience imposter syndrome at all? And is that something that you can speak to now that you've been on the job for a while?
So I feel like I'm a cocky guy as far as what I can produce. But everyone on my team feels like it's so much better than me as far as coding goes. So I just routinely ask my boss, I say, how am I doing? What could I be doing better? What specifically should I be looking at in the direction to improve, to get a promotion and to do a better job? And so that's how I handle it for myself. But like I said, everyone on the team is so much better than me that I just feel like they're these amazing developers, and I'm just trying to catch up and push hard and and learn all the things that they're learning and learn from them to just be a better developer.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody in here is feeling some level of imposter syndrome right now, right? You will feel it in the next course you take. You will feel it when you become a junior developer. You will feel it when you become an intermediate developer. You will feel it when you become a senior developer, and so on and so forth. But I think he really brought up some key criteria here, which is really just to keep going, learn from everyone that you possibly can, and really maintain an open mind within that process. I think it's very crucial and important for all of you to know that no matter what stage of the game you're at, someone is going to be better than you, right? They're going to be a better developer. They're going to be able to pull things off quicker than you possibly could or even ever could think of, right? They're going to come up with some sort of solution that you were like, wow, I spent 8 hours on this. You did that in 10 minutes. How is that even possible, right? But with all that being said, your goal right now should be able to be to produce code, right? To be able to produce something that is working, that over time you will iterate on and you will get better at. And I think, they've been in the industry now for a while, so they're producing production level code, right? But that may not be the case when you first move into the industry. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, right? Okay, so another question. Now that you guys are kind of in this full-time position, do you feel like you have the opportunity to kind of still manage a work-life balance? It's only been a year, so in your software development roles, what does that look like? Both within your company and then also within your own kind of development processes.
So I think we usually plan on about 30 hours of dev work. We have like 10 hours of meeting a week, like give or take, just things that come up, things that eat your time up, personal meetings that you set up. And so we keep it around 40 hours. Sometimes we'll finish a little quicker, and you can take off early on Friday. You can go to that happy hour at 2:30 on Friday. Sometimes you gotta put in 4 hours on the weekend. And it's just you balancing things out. I feel like the work balance is solid at Zillow. I feel comfortable with it. But I do want to develop on my own as a developer faster. So I put in a little bit of time just studying things, reading things, and building my own projects.
Yeah, I've had a very similar experience. Microsoft, especially the team that I'm on, Microsoft Teams, which is a terrible name, so you probably haven't heard of it. It's a Slack competitor. It's awesome, and especially the front end, the header, the fact that you can see multiple people's profiles in one picture. I did those, so those are the best parts. But anyhow, the work-life balance is awesome on that team in particular. I know that I've heard horror stories from my coworkers that have been on other teams at Microsoft. And like any huge corporate environment, there are going to be teams where like you're worked to the bone, and you get pressured to work more. The official stance is like 40 hours, go home, spend time with your kids, your family, like take your vacations. But then you get guilted for doing any of that. On the team I'm on, it's super relaxed. As long as you are giving the impression that you're doing work and you do provide like. Yeah, I mean, the point there is nobody's breathing over your shoulder. If you're not obviously not working, nobody's gonna say anything. And if you produce what you need to produce on deadlines, good for you. Like, you need to leave early to pick up a delivery, that's fine. Nobody cares.
Yep.
As long as you get the work done and not too many bugs in it.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another why that I think many of you should kind of keep in the back of your mind too. If you're looking for that culture of really managing your own schedule and managing your own work-life balance, software gives you that opportunity even at some of these larger corporations, right? They're all buying more into the model of people are individuals, people are important, and we need to give you a little bit more flexibility within your work schedules. And I'm seeing that across the board through lots of conversation with partner companies that is happening more and more and more and more. So a lot of opportunity for that kind of thing. I want to ask another question, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I'm sure a lot of you all have questions. So my question for you is, do you have a favorite feature or product that you have worked on either within your company or outside of your company since you've left Codefellows?
You want to go first?
So I've only worked on one production product. I've handled a few features on it, and it's the Teams, like the Slack competitor. So I've fixed bugs and added little features to the front end all over the place, and it's just awesome in general to see that roll out to like it's front end work, which I don't know, sometimes doesn't sound as cool or as impressive as some of the server side stuff, but people can see it. Like if you have family members that are not in tech but consume these products, like you can be like, yeah, that works now, like because of me. Whereas back end's awesome, but it's like you notice how that was like a little bit faster. So yeah, you notice how that's slightly more secure now. Oh, you don't. Oh. But so yeah, it's awesome working on a huge commercial enterprise product and changing features that millions of people see. My My favorite thing outside of that was actually something that's like kind of embarrassing to look back on, but my first half of 401 project, Plop.
Remember it?
Plop JS. It was a project scaffolding tool. Turns out there's actually a Plop on NPM that is a super awesome project scaffolding tool that my teammates and I didn't notice until we were pretty much done. And so, yeah, we now use the real Plop at work. I was like, I hope they don't like accidentally try and find like somebody like searches the wrong one, adds JS to the end, and they pull up mine, and it's just horrible. But it was awesome to work on. It was super fun. It was a command line tool, which was not what most people were doing on that project. So I learned a lot. Just a little tangent on that. I learned so much on that project, largely because it was in an area that none of the instructors were really working on at all. So, like Brian Duncan, who was here like way back, other instructors were just like, I don't know, figure it out. And that was stressful, but like me and my teammates learned a ton.
Yeah.
So like dig into things that people can't spoon feed you, because then you're gonna force yourself to learn. That's awesome.
Yeah, I even remember that project. It's crazy you said that. That was what, 2 years ago?
As far as favorite features go, I spent like a lot of time knocking out like a ton of bugs. So if I went to Zillow.com, I could be like, oh, I fixed that. I made that look slick. We're doing a big transition to React now. So kind of everything now is built in React at Zillow, and it's moving in that direction. And I can look at it and I can say all these cool things that I built are awesome. But I think what's important wherever you end up is to find your niche or something that you're the best at or that you're really good at. For me, I was given this task on accessibility, and I put like a big push towards that, and I've changed our site a lot to favor accessibility. And a lot of people wouldn't notice that, but it has made me more valuable at Zillow. I would say I could tell you that there's 2 other people who work on accessibility, and between 3 of us, I put in the most time. So I would say I definitely know it the best. Like other teams will come talk to me when they're working on something accessibility-wise, or there's a bug that they can't figure out, or they want to get something going and want to know the best way on how to solve it. And so like that's been really awesome for me, and I think that's helped solidify my position at Zillow, kind of what I can put out and what my value is to the company, and things like this exist at all companies. Like you just have to look for the opportunities and then go all in on them and choose a niche that you want to focus on.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I've experienced the exact same thing. So before I came out here, I worked as a UI developer for a while, and as a user interface developer, I was tasked with a lot of front-end JavaScript work and a lot of front-end CSS work as well. And I think my employer at that time realized that I really enjoyed the CSS side of things, and I would take on more and more tasks specifically because I was interested in that, and then they would continue to actually push tasks on me that were related to that skill set as well. So over time, I became the subject matter expert within that specific domain, and that was because I said to the company, I like this. They knew I liked it, and then we had more of an opportunity for me to grow in my own role and then help share those things with the team. So I think all of you, whether you're a front-end developer or you're a back-end developer, you're going to be working cross-functionally between lots of different departments and in lots of different languages at times. However, if you find that kind of niche market or that niche area within your own skill set, speak to that to some degree, because that could be an area that you can continue to grow in and then could ultimately become the subject matter expert within it. Good stuff. All right, so I'm going to open it up for y'all. Questions? George.
Thank you for being here. I'm really happy to hear your perspectives from former co-fellow workers. I want to ask about the culture fit when you initially got into the job. How difficult was it for you? And I noticed that you both have degrees. Did that take some of the edge off when you're going into something feeling kind of qualified?
So if I hear you correctly, your question is going into these job roles because you had degrees or some sort of college education, did that make you feel more armed and comfortable in that environment?
That's the second part of the question.
Okay.
The first being, how was the culture fit?
Yep. Okay.
Coming from boot camp.
Sweet. 2 parts. The other part being culture fit, especially coming from a boot camp environment.
All right. So I kind of grew up in a different environment, so I had a big culture shock when I went to college, just in terms of the culture and how people lived and how they spent money and things like that. And so I had an easier job kind of making that transition into Zillow, where, you know, everyone comes from a more favored background. As far as, I mean, everyone's super nice, everyone's super chill, they're all personable people. I see a difference, like, academically between people who have, like, different degrees just in terms of what they focus on, what their expertises are. But I mean, as far as, like, the corporate culture, I feel like everyone is willing to, you know, work hard and get it focused on and get a product on. As far as culture fit, Zillow is very welcoming. They're looking for, you know, lots of different people, lots of different ideas, and they aren't going to distinguish. They aren't going to put someone down for their background or anything associated like that. There are lots of teams that focus on specific groups that might want, you know, their things heard. You know, we've got different groups for people who come from different types of backgrounds, including, you know, women, minorities, educational backgrounds, military, all these different things. And so you can always reach out to those groups and, you know, create your own structure, your own structure there to help promote you. I think that's all I got for you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
No, thank you.
So let's see. In terms of immediate like culture fit or things that I observed, a bunch of nerds. You know, definitely noticed everybody was a nerd, which was great. I was on a slightly different team, like a neighboring team, working on different parts of the same product when I converted to full time after the apprenticeship, and everybody was super nice, super friendly. But the people that I ended up working full time with didn't necessarily know my background, being like coming from a boot camp, and I would definitely say that I was reluctant to like share that overtly to begin with. I wanted to make sure that like I could develop an impression of myself and like make sure I got to know people and they got to know that I wasn't way behind where I was expected to be before saying like, oh yeah, I don't have a CS degree, like just walked in here. So that was yeah, I eventually like shared that, and at this point like I've gotten to the point where I've gotten positive performance reviews and I've gotten to know my team really well, and everybody's been like super friendly. So I'm happy, like at this point I feel a lot more comfortable no matter who I meet on campus or on the buildings, whatever, sharing the background where I came from. And I would say that having the degree actually helped, and it's my degree not being computer science is sort of a novelty on my team. So everybody's very curious about like my different set of knowledge, and nobody sees that as like being some sort of inferior thing. They're just like, they come to me with different questions that may not be related to work.
Yep. And
I'm going to speak to. Oh, go ahead.
just to kind of add on to what you were saying regarding specialties and backgrounds coming from boot camp, yeah, it never comes up. I feel like, you know, because I'm a little older, you know, I'm clearly not out of college. I can tell you that Co-Fellows does set you up to be on par or better as compared to interns that I've seen. Like, I spent a week working on a project with an intern, and I felt like I was in much better shape. So you should lean on your strengths, whatever that you find they may be, and, you know, that'll carry you through it. Just be confident, and, you know, just keep pushing and work hard.
Yep, I have the same actually. Like, I'm also a lot older than a lot of the guys or the people on my team. When I went through LEAP, a lot of people were younger, although it was a huge mix. And on the team I'm on now, there's a lot of recent graduates and people who've only been in the field for a few years, but they're fresh out of like MIT or Princeton or whatever, and they've got CS degrees, and so like they've I don't know, they've got a solid start. And they're very young, so that was a I don't know, a significant difference. I feel like a lot of people out here are probably older than like fresh out of college, and so that's gonna be, I don't know, I found that interesting to adjust to, being like the old guy around the team. Like, there's a mix, but like so many people that have like stronger technical skills than you. They're just like kids. It's like, man, if I know what I know now.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off that a little bit too, and to give you a little bit of a layer of my experiences there, I did not take or go to a code school or immersive environment, but I do not have a college education. I barely passed high school, legitimately mean that. Have worked, a ridiculous number of odd jobs. And when I first moved into my very first apprenticeship role, I was terrified that the first question I would get from any potential employer would be, dude, you don't have a college education. Why would we even talk to you? Like, we can't even sit down with you, right? And your work history is, front desk at a hotel or driving a taxi or whatever it was, right? And that was something that I think I held on to for a really long time as a really negative part of my background. However, once I made it into the industry and I actually started having conversations, I found the exact opposite to happen. I feel ridiculously armed with the fact that I did not go to college now. And what that says for like future employers or potential conversations that I have, they're like, oh dude, you tried to figure this out yourself. You went down this path on your own, and we can tell that you're super driven because there's no other way you would have been able to accomplish this unless you did it on your own. So I do think for all of you that are concerned about things like, do I have a piece of paper that says I can do this stuff? Really, it's you. You've got to be able to showcase that you can do these things. And if you show that you have persistence, drive, and ambition, that's what employers are looking for. And I know this is something you've heard us say a lot. I know this is something that we'll continue to tell you, and you'll probably get tired of in the near future. But I really, really, truly mean it. Regardless of what your background is in, it can help you, and you've got to position it in a way, both within your personal branding and the way that you present yourself within potential interviews or situations of that nature, to where you feel armed with that as a positive thing and not something that brings you down. Truly, truly mean that. I have no college education. When I say that to someone, they don't say, we're not going to talk to you. They actually end up saying the complete opposite. Ooh, shit, we should sit down with you and talk to you about your experiences so far. So it has been a complete flop in terms of what I expected with that, right? And I think it'll be the same for you, as long as you feel that you can, kind of progress in that right direction and make sure that you feel positive about your experiences and that you know what you can achieve. So that's pretty much where that goes. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, I think I heard you say that you kind of found a niche in being the accessibility go-to guy. Is that, you guys find that that's common, or are within the industry, where are those kind of like, I like the idea of becoming an expert in one area where other people would come and ask, I'm inspired in something like that, potentially that might be like how do I find like what I'm passionate about? Is accessibility here in there, or are there other areas that you guys found where there aren't that many go-to people existing, where becoming that person would be valuable?
Yeah, so the question is for Michael, and it's basically Michael found accessibility as kind of that niche within his own skill set and within his team. Are there other things that you've identified as being niche areas, or how did you find out? What does that process look like?
So on our teams in particular, we have experts on performance and testing, and we have people developing courses on React performance and testing. And so there are lots of things that you can find a niche in. I would just choose something. Don't worry about who else is an expert in it. You don't have to be the premier expert at your company. You could just be the best person on your team about it, or even the second best person on your team. And you should feel comfortable with that. I know that we have a ton of people who look at performance, and I would consider them all experts, at least compared to me and most average developers. And that's totally cool, and that's awesome. And I know if I'm looking for a performance thing, I know there's a project manager I can look to. I know there's people on my team I can look to. I know people on other teams I can look to. It's such a big deal. So anything that you could work on, you can become an expert in. Whether that's performance, whether that's front end UI, whether that's anything, whether that's user experience and testing. There's something called I don't know, there's this card deck where they go through these cards and look at testing, and then they'll miss things sometimes, and a product or feature will go out, and you got to bring it back. If you can catch that on the developer end, like that's awesome. So anything that you can focus on that you feel comfortable in at work, you should be an expert on that.
Yeah, and as another kind of sidebar on that too, I think showing passion within some of those areas is another key way to get a little bit more interest from the outside of the fact that you are interested in that too. So if you're just like, I want to do that, I like that, that seems really cool, everybody's going to take notice, right? Which means that you're going to get more of an opportunity to grow in that role. Yeah. Go for it.
Chris, if I understand correctly, you're working at Microsoft. It sounded like you went through the JavaScript track possibly?
Yes.
All right. So what has been your experience in terms of probably the myth is that if you're not a .NET track, then chances of getting on Microsoft are slim. Could you maybe speak to that and encourage some of us JavaScript trackers that are maybe interested in Microsoft in what that might look like?
Yep, so David's question is basically, coming from a JavaScript track, what does it look like to get into the lead program, or specifically working at a place like Microsoft, where a lot of you all have probably heard that the track to move into for Microsoft would be .NET. How does that differ for a JavaScript track? Is that correct?
Yeah, so there is the myth that it's like .NET and whatnot. That is entirely false. JavaScript is huge. TypeScript in particular, typed JavaScript, super awesome. Largely maintained, created at Microsoft. It's like the beautiful love child of C# and JavaScript, and it's excellent to work with. And there's great tooling for it, and it's widely adopted across all sorts of teams, specifically in the Office organization. All the Office products, the whole industry is moving away from having like some app that you download to more of a web-based model. And how are you going to build all those web-based Word or Excel or etc. Apps? Those are going to be JavaScript.
That's a really good way to put that. Yeah. Solid.
Very cool, thank you.
Yeah, I really like that answer too. Think about that, right? Everything's going to cloud platforms. Everything's going to have a front end that's basically pinned up and shown in a browser, right? Yep.
So you guys said that you both went to a lead program. You guys both went to, or just?
No, just Chris.
Just Chris went to the lead program. Okay. How long did it take then in the lead program to get hired? Did you say that to get into Microsoft, or how long did that process take to actually? Like, I'm assuming that this was some type of apprenticeship that took 2 months or 3 months, or?
Yeah, so the question is, how long did it take to get through the LEAP apprenticeship? And what did that look like?
So Leap, sort of like Codefellow, is always iterating, always improving, changing a little bit. So the timelines may be a little different. When I went through, and I think at this point it's about 3 months. You do about a month of a classroom type environment, and then 2 months basically assigned out to a team. And depending on how that team wants to treat you, they're either going to, have you do little intern things here and there, or they're going to be like, great, we have another dev to put towards this feature or these bugs or whatever. So you spend 2 months participating on a team like any other like entry-level dev, and then depending on the impression you've made, your mentor or your team will recommend that you're brought in for an official interview. What was unfortunate for me, I guess, or for a lot of people, felt it was unfortunate, including the full-time employees that are there working with you, is that when you're in LEAP, you are not an employee of Microsoft. So at the end of the program, if you've proven yourself to be super useful, you technically still have to go through a full interview loop, and that may or may not be with the team that you know, and those loops can be pretty hard. So definitely like prepare on the side for interviews, like prove yourself, get strong recommendations, because that will go a long way. But then be ready to actually interview hard. And then so for me, I got the recommendation. I had like a roller coaster of like, oh, we don't have headcount to bring you on anyways. And like, oh, we can push things around, maybe make it work. And it turns out we can't. Okay, wait a month and we can. And so there was a month in between, and I went in for an interview and got an offer. And so, yeah. So my particular cohort was over the winter, and there was like a month-long break in December. So I started LEAP in the beginning of November, ended in March, and I got my official start date was May 15th. So that's the timeline there from like starting LEAP to converting to full-time.
Did you go directly into Leap, or did you work for, I think, somewhere that you have to work as a dev 6 months before?
Yeah, so they were not as strict about that rule when I went through. So I did not have any professional experience as a developer before going into Leap. I would say apply anyways, but
I can speak a little bit to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, has everybody met Elizabeth Scutchville, our partner relations manager? No, maybe? Okay. If you have not, you will. She works very closely with you in a 401 environment, especially after you leave 401 to be part of our career accelerator program. And one of the things that she does is she helps you kind of get certain things on your resume, or at least come up with a plan if you're interested in something like Leap. So there has been some changes made on that front, but we have some strategies behind the way that we can help you get into that. And at the same time too, just to let everybody know, I think Chris's experiences within Leap are generally what I've heard from other graduates too. So I've got a lot of friends and graduates out in the industry now that have went through the Leap program. Basically mirrors the same thing. There is no guarantee of a job at the end of that process. This is not a Printy, they are two different programs. This process is more about the internship opportunity and learning what it looks like to be at Microsoft. But again, if you set yourself up at the very beginning of that process as somebody that they have to hire, then you have a lot better of an opportunity of making it into that. So I think personal branding and really just showing up and showing out on day one and going at 190% every single day is a key part of being one of the people that actually make it through and get the position. Yep. I can take one more question. Go for it.
So it seems like the LEAP program is front-end focused, is that correct? Or is this matter between front-end and back-end?
So the question is, ultimately, is there different tracks within the LEAP program? Front end, back end?
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely not front end oriented overall. The way that it's structured generally is all the applicants who may come from a boot camp environment, may have been like devs that like took a long break to raise children or whatever, any sort of background, and so they may have different technical skills. So what happens is you go in, you interview, they decide however many people they have spots for. They basically have a draft. They put your picture or resume or whatever up on the wall with a few highlight points like this person's strong here, this is what they said in their interview, and they get a representative from each of the teams that has agreed to sponsor an apprentice and do a draft. And those teams can be like, apparently there was an Xbox team that brought an apprentice in to like that was working in assembly, and there's yeah, people working in all languages and environments who do anything.
Okay, let's give our panelists a round of applause. Okay, so I'll let you guys get back to doing what you're doing. However, at 1:30, Python final presentations will take place. Again, this is their final presentations. Come out, check them out. That'll take place from roughly 1:30 to about 2:30ish or so. And ultimately, yeah, thanks for being here, y'all.